empathetic in times of transition. We have Simon Turkas, Juliane Nendel, and Tim Dowd, special guest with us today. And we're going to go into a little bit more depth of what we were talking about last week. This is a really important topic. And just a reminder, we were talking about empathy. Empathy can be developed, and when it is, people, relationships, organizations, and cultures are changed. This is a quote from Carol Dweck from her mindset book. And we also talked about the book, The War for Kindness, Building Empathy in a Fractured World. And in that book, just to remind you, we were talking about empathy, that they had been over the last 4 decades, over the last 40 years. Well, this was in 2009, going back to 2009. The psychologists and scientists had been studying this. And over that 40-year period, empathy had dropped 75% in that 40-year period. And these were the 2 simple questions they were asking. I often have tender, concerned feelings for people less fortunate than I am. And I try to look at everyone's side of a disagreement before I make a decision. And these are a couple of very key, very simple pieces to empathy. And today we're going to talk a little bit, we're going to go a little bit more in depth what Juliane has been working on for quite a long time, which is the SustainableME, SustainableWE. She's going to tell you a little bit about what that means and share a little bit of depth in that area and the empathy part of it in what's going on today for her.
Yeah, so thanks for tuning in, everyone. And yes, SustainableME, SustainableWE is a philosophy that I have also up on my website, julianenendel.com, and it's something that I really do embrace, because I do believe sustainability starts with your own self. And sustainability is what is sustainable. How can an individual actually be better and look for better solutions to go forward empathetically in the future, and how can I myself make that happen for myself. So to be more sustainable, I need to work on my own attitude, keeping calm in situations that are maybe challenging, moments of transition, changes that are sometimes really striking maybe, and work on becoming better. How can I embrace maybe learning new skills and all those sorts of things that then cause the ripple effect of being more empathetic maybe, and give better to the world, give and share better for the whole, and not only looking maybe only bettering myself, or only using this sustainable me for selfish reasons. Sustainable is something that is for the whole, for everyone, and to share and to become better, but collectively. So we invited today Tim, and I'm really happy. Thank you that you made it to the show. Um, Tim and Christine, his wife, and we've been doing for a while, since half a year, I think it is already, balcony banter every Wednesday. We do a YouTube live on his show, and Living with MS in Tenerife, where we eagerly discuss also topics, and Tim and his wife, they are, for me, in my opinion, very sustainable. Me, sustainable we. I'm just going to give my own opinion about it, because I think that Tim and his wife, they have managed to actually be comfortable with the situation that is quite uncomfortable, but becoming more comfortable with that situation and accepting a challenging situation they found themselves in. They were able to find maybe more relaxed way of living in the present, and from that they ripple off and sharing it with other people. They have a lot of followers and a lot of friends already on YouTube, who built a very big community, and I think this is a great example what you are doing of sharing empathy. So Tim, can you talk a little bit about how your transition was of becoming more comfortable in an uncomfortable situation? And do you also maybe see it like I just described it? I don't know.
I think we show that to the outside world, but we're not perfect.
Yeah.
So the transition's still going on, but we realize now that it's not the person, it's the situation. So if something happens, we don't go like a lot of married couples might. They blame the person instead of the situation. And so therefore, that's the first thing that we learned, is that there is no fault in this house. Es gibt keine Schuld in diesem Haus. So nobody is at fault for anything. So if something happens, nobody is at fault. And that is the first step towards healing, if you like. So I think that was something that we used as a tool to get around the knee-jerk reaction when something happens and the escalation that it can cause. So I think that's a good tool that anybody can use, is putting that into place as no fault in this house. And but it's always her fault, so that's also. The next thing was we realized we made a big decision in Germany to shut everything down, sell everything, give everything away, start afresh, and live the rest of our lives, however long that may be, in a place where it's warm, where it doesn't snow, where it doesn't rain that much, and also a place where we could get visitors, and they could also come not just to visit us, but to visit a beautiful place. So my daughter always said she'd rather come to Costa Adeje instead of Ensenbach, which was where we were living at the time. Although that's a beautiful place as well. And so we made a big decision to make a move. And in that move, it was inherent that we had to both accept that our lives will change dramatically. And we won't be able to do everything that we were doing. We would have to live very simply. We had to live on a budget, which we weren't doing in Germany. I was earning quite a bit of money, so we were sort of a little bit decadent in that respect. So I had to change the way I looked at life. And also I was important, and I come to being quasi unimportant. And that was a change for me as well. Although now looking back, this is more important than what I was doing then. So it's as Juliane said, it's an acceptance thing. You have to accept the limitations, but then work within the limitations and push the boundary. So even though you're accepting the limitation, you're not looking at it as a barrier. You're looking at it as a goal to reach and push. And you need to change the things that you can change and accept the things you can't. And if something's happening that you don't like and you can change it immediately. Don't say I'm going to wait. We make changes very, very quickly. We change our minds very quickly. We do U-turns, in fact, very quickly. Sometimes it puts people's nose out of joint, you know, that we're different. But that's the selfish part, that you have to be a little bit selfish, because as Juliane was saying in one of the earlier masterminds I watched, you have to fill your cup up first before you can give. So that's all. You have to be selfish to that point where you have to look after yourself. That's the sustainable me part before you can then start giving to others. But I think you can give to others without taking away from yourself as well. And that's when we just share our lives. And we've had so many people write to us just saying, just looking at you guys makes us feel better. So I think we're making some sort of inroads into that by just being ourselves. And that warms my heart. So I'm talking, but anybody else?
You're doing an amazing job on it, huh? Both of you, huh?
Well, we don't see it as a job, I think. I mean, I know you didn't mean it like that, but
no.
We really don't see it as a job. We see it as a way, a cathartic exercise for ourselves that helps others. How do you say Abfallprodukt in English?
Waste, no?
A waste product, yeah. It's so yeah. Our empathy is a waste product of what we do.
But you know, somebody's waste is somebody's treasure.
Exactly. In
That's
fact, you got to talk to him and outside in the bins.
That's it. And using it and making reusing it. That's also another way of being more sustainable.
To reuse stuff, yeah. I reuse my jokes often.
Ding ding. So.
Simon, you had a really great story earlier this morning. Thank you, Tim, for sharing all of that, by the way. Thank you. Absolutely, completely. And you didn't, Juliane, you didn't clarify. Tim, can you just share what it is that Juliane was saying that you had change in your life? What was the change that happened?
Well, basically, Christina has got MS, and we were sat outside in 2012, I think it was, and in a beautiful garden in Bavaria, massive garden, blah, blah, blah. And I said, what do you want out of life? And Christina says, to tell you the truth, I just want to wake up late, have breakfast looking out at the sea, call my friends and parents and siblings in the afternoon on the phone, and in the evening have a glass of wine watching the sun go down. And I said, well, when I retire, we'll do that. And she turned around to me. She turned around to me and says, I'm not going to make that. So that was the thing. The decision had to be really quick. So from 2012, we decided. We came over to Tenerife because we thought that European inland, the only place really which is sunny all year was the Canary Islands. So we came to Tenerife, fell in love with the Costa Adeje, La Caleta area, Playa San Juan, and we'd never been here actually, but we eventually came here. So that was the shock really, that we were always planning for the future, and Christina says we're not going to make it, you know. For when I'm not even 65 yet, you know. I know I look it, but I've got another 5 years to go, and you got to retire at 67 and a half these days. So that was the thing, and so I 24 hours I look after Chris now. Well, 22 because I get 2 hours off in the afternoon. But yeah, that was the change. It was the decision to become a full-time carer.
Well done, you. Amazing, amazing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
No problem.
And your story just completely encompasses everything that this is all about. What we're talking about. I can't thank you enough for sharing it.
No problem.
So, Simon, you had a really great story that you shared about your parents. Is that okay to share? And the two young men, is that okay to share? Because I mean, this again goes right down that road into this empathy and putting yourself in the other person's shoes and having this just different, genuine understanding and care for others. Can you share your story about that?
Yeah, sure. Just first of all, thank you for sharing that story, Tim. That's really touching, and I think you definitely made the wise decision to move over to the Canaries because it's a beautiful place where you're living. My parents, thankfully they've always brought me and my brother up to be empathetic to the best of their ability, and I think I've carried that on from what they've taught me. And yeah, they're both foster parents, so they look after they've looked after kids from the UK. They're currently based in Essex, but they also look after refugee kids that have come over. So they've had someone from Albania, and also they've had some kids from Afghanistan. And I think one of the boys they've got at the moment is from Iran, and they've also got a boy from Afghanistan as well. And all the refugee kids they've had have been boys, and they've all come over. They've had really some very harrowing stories they've told us, such as losing their family members and being in terrible situations in their home countries, and then having to travel on the backs of lorries or that kind of thing to get to the UK, and then turning up with pretty much nothing, just the clothes on their back. And then luckily these kids are put with foster parents, and my parents have been looking after some of them for several years at a time, and they grow to really care about these kids that are looking after them and treat them pretty much as their own sons. And yeah, I've talked to these boys, and they're not always able to communicate completely because their English is a bit broken sometimes, but it's really great to see them progressing through life because they get sent to local schools, and they tell some really tough stories, but I can tell they're generally, well, the ones that I've met that they've looked after, they're really good people. And I think it really shows as well when you get to talk to these boys that have come from such difficult situations. And of course, it would be the same if it was girls. That we shouldn't demonize refugees. It's terrible how the media and some of the politicians at the moment demonize refugees and make the general population fear them and think we shouldn't help them, we should close our borders, because some of these people grow up to do amazing things. Like, for example, the vaccines that we've got at the moment, they've been developed by Turkish refugees that went to live in Germany. So it just shows like these people have amazing talent, and it's wasted if we just try and shut our borders and keep them out and keep them in. I mean, ideally, of course, we would also be helping these countries which have these bad situations that often have been created by the West. And another thing that's going on at the moment that's really sad is that I think, as far as I know, I think the governments in the UK are now saying that we're going to cut development aid to these countries, which is going to make the situation even worse, which is going to mean more people want to escape because obviously they'll have an even worse life living in these places. So it's self-defeating doing this. But going back to the first point, I think that we should definitely be empathetic to people around the world who have suffering terrible things, and we shouldn't just shut our eyes to these problems. And also we should treat the people that come here not as some burden, but integrate them into society because they can achieve amazing things. Often refugee kids, they're some of the hardest working because they know how they know that they've been through such tough situations, and they need to work doubly hard to make their way in society. So we don't want to waste this talent they've got by just demonizing them. Yeah, so
Pull it out and enhance it, help enhance it for sure.
yeah.
How long have they been with your parents?
One of them came only a couple of months ago. The boy, I think think he's from Iran, and then the other boy from Afghanistan. I think he's been for about, I think it's about a year and a half now. And they had another boy prior to that from Afghanistan who's now gone on to live in London, and he's going to college there, which is great. And there was the boy before that from Albania. He went on to go to college in another city as well. So it's a huge help what they're doing, and I commend not just my parents, but all foster parents who are looking after kids in this situation, and not just refugees either. Like some of the other kids they looked after from the UK come from some of the poorest places in the local area, and they have really tough lives. Some of them. Yeah, so I think.
And they've given these young kids a chance, an opportunity at life, and they're grasping it, and they're doing something really, really good for it. Having this guidance from your parents that, you know, they are stepping into their shoes. They're getting inside of them to help pull out the best of them and help grow everything for them.
One thing I like, because I didn't know too much about Afghanistan apart from like stuff about wars and all the bad things that they say in the media. But the more I've looked into Afghanistan and watched some programs about it and YouTube videos and talked to these kids, it's an amazing country, and there's an amazing population of people there, and the culture there is incredible, and there's the landscapes and the architecture. And just one story that one of the boys has told me is how, and this is something he misses actually from Afghanistan, is how in his culture, he was saying that in the village he grew up in, that often people of all different generations, young down up to old, they'd all get together and they'd sit around a table and drink cups of tea together and have nice conversations. And he said he just doesn't see that so much in the UK. Like each generation sticks them to their own generation, and often there's a big divide. And I think this is definitely true now. Unfortunately, there's a big divide between younger generations and older generations, and there's kind of a mistrust almost between the generations, which is that lack of empathy which you were talking about before that's happened. And we need to somehow rekindle that empathy and trust between generations and between different groups of people. So I think that's a lesson that we could learn from Afghanistan, for example.
Yeah,
absolutely. And some of the, you know, Juliane and Simon, the three of us talked about this age goal, and you know, my age goal is 125. I know it's possible. My grandparents lived to 101, 102. Great grandparents lived to 101, 102. They lived off the land. James' father lived into his 90s. That was after having a heart attack in his 60s. So all of these things are very possible. But they call them the blue zones. I don't know what there was other names and terms they used to call them. But places like Okinawa, Japan, and I think maybe Fiji, there's a new place that they're kind of building and creating in California. There's quite a few places around the world that they're finding people who are living well over 100, happy, healthy, self-sustainably contributing. And that's sort of our mantra is, you know, when we look forward, we're all thinking happy, healthy, self-sustainably contributing every day until, you know, we just keep going and then boop, and that's it, you know. But every day contributing, every day, you know, thinking, what can I do? What can I do to help make this a better place today? Not just for myself, but in what I'm inputting, how it's contributing to the whole, that the whole is becoming a better place for what I'm contributing. And that all ties in with the empathy part of things. And one of the big core things in these communities that are living to over 100 is, one, it's normal. It's normal and natural. Their environment, they know people live to over 100. So that's their mindset. That is their automatic mindset. They know people live to over 100. It's just, that's normal. The other thing is the community is from, like you were saying, from young to old. And every weekend, they bring the elders out to the square, the little town square. They bring all of them out and they all have conversation together. They all share. They all share. Did you say something, Tim? Are you on? I think you're on mute.
I was just saying, I saw that film. It was called Death Race 2000.
I'm sorry?
I said I saw that film, that movie. It was called Death Race 2000, where they brought out all the old people and ran them over with cars. You didn't see
No.
that?
No. No, that's a different one.
They just sounded, bringing them out just sounded like they were tucked away somewhere and they brought them out for a while.
They all come out as a community together.
Okay. I thought they'd been
lift each other. And the elders share with the younger ones. They share together. The younger people share their thoughts and ideas and creativity, and the elders share with them their experience. And together they blend going forward to a better place.
Don't forget, in the past, that used to happen in Britain as well. I mean, the poor people
everywhere.
Yeah, but the poor people couldn't afford their house, and the rich people had a big house, so everybody stayed at home, or at least the country house. So the family unit was extended. And what's happened now is the culture has changed to become compartmentalized. Is that the word?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you've compartmentalized people. You've made them work too hard, because the culture, I think, in Britain now is if you're not working 60 hours a week, you're not good enough. And in America as well, I worked in America 5 years, and they say, how many hours a week do you work? I say 35. And they say, well, if you're not working 60 hours, you're not good enough. I said, if it's 60 hours, it's either a job for two people or you're useless, and they didn't like that. But because you have to have time for family and culture. You can't just go and work and then expect
everything. Blended life, absolutely. Blended life.
But I think it's us doing it. It's not the government doing it. It's not. I think it's we're giving ourselves goals. I mean, your goal to live to 125. I don't want for another 60 years. No, thank you. I'm quite happy for another 5.
Yeah, it's individual. It's the competition that we set in our own heads is one of the big issues, that we're competing with someone else to be. I'm not enough to be unless I'm like that person, and that's not at all. That's not it at all. It's individual. Not everybody wants to live to 100 or 125. That's okay. That's all right. And I'm interested in it because I have so much to do yet and so much to give. And, I'm that, and if you don't ever go there, you don't go there,
If I ever lived long, then I'd like to just watch to see what happens next. I think that's the thing. I don't want to die because I want to know what happens next.
Okay, good.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean I want to live forever. That's why I can't get into the idea of heaven. I just can't imagine worshiping somebody forever.
Even what you're saying earlier, Lorrie, about the blue zones. I was just reading the other day about how, like, this idea that we've got to, say, go to the gym or go for a run, all this kind of exercise, like do very strenuous activities. If you look at the blue zones, they're just active during the day. They're walking around, they're doing the gardening, they're doing the washing, they're just going for a walk. And like today, I was just out for a long walk. I saw a lot of people running, which I was into for a while, but they didn't really look that happy, and they looked a bit. They were struggling, some of them, and I think they were kind of forcing themselves because I think that's what I've got to do. I've got to be in this competition all the time. Whereas it's nice just to go for a long walk, I find now. to be honest.
I find
Yep.
as well that it is like what you said, Lorrie. It's mindset, and when we're talking about like sustainable mindset, creating that.
That's right.
How is it going to be achievable? And 125, it might sound like as an unachievable goal, um, but yet if you plant that seed and doesn't need to be like happening, but just keeping that in mind and working towards something. Because if we stop working towards something, then we're on the downfall. And and as well, we are always gonna like what you said, Simon. We're gonna be always confronted with resistance when making changes, and when we have to accept ideas, or especially new ideas or new changes, then we will always be confronted with resistance, and especially not only from external resistance, but also internal resistance, self-sabotaging
Yep.
resistance that is going on in ourselves, because we are not good at this new habit. Maybe we beat ourselves up instead of yeah mm, bettering ourselves up, or I don't know how you might want to call it.
So, Simon, can I just go back for a minute to what you were talking about with your parents and the transitions that I'm fascinated with the story of your parents taking in these young boys and the transition that they must be going through of not knowing the language, being in a completely foreign place, with people that are not their family, and yet they're adapting and adjusting, and like you said, they're going on and they're going to university and they're thriving. Um, it must be just such a desperate place that they've come from, that they're willing to just do whatever it takes to move forward. And that transition is just, it's amazing and so fascinating to me how your parents helped them transition through that.
But I think, as Tim was saying with his situation, it's definitely not easy, and there's a lot of obstacles to overcome, because where yeah they're coming from a completely different culture, where, as I was saying, they're much, I would say, in their culture they're a lot more intergenerational, and often they're from small villages as well, where they've come from. Whereas when they come and stay with my parents, they've got to learn the language, and there's all this new technology as well, which can be a benefit, but it also can be a bit of a hindrance, because then they see like other kids with the iPhones and all this kind of stuff and the latest clothing, and they get sucked into that trap that they want that as well, which is it's a shame, because I think where they come from, they're much more into outdoor activities and just being active all the time. And then it can be, luckily a few of them, they've kept up with that. They really enjoy football or fitness or running or the gym or that kind of thing. But yeah, I'd say it's a huge benefit for them um, when they come and they're being put into a local school, and they learn to interact and make friends with local kids, and they go to, I don't know, play football with the local team, that kind of thing. Um, but yeah, overall, it's very tough when you hear their stories and what because it's not just that they're coming to England because well, generally speaking, it's not because they're coming to England because they see they're going to get everything handed to them on a plate. That's what the media kind of says. They're actually just being pushed from their country because the situation's so bad. They don't want to leave. Like, it's not that they desperately want to get to England. They just want to get away from something that's so tough, and they see no hope where they are. So their parents or their family say, you need to escape from here because they're coming from war-torn places, or there's no jobs, or it's just, yeah, terrible situation where they're coming from.
Can I put this back up really quickly? We're coming to the end of our time here, but can I just put this back up really quickly, because it all ties together. As we always say on all the different 30-minute masterminds, all of these different things are so interlinked. Juliane talked us through, I've talked through before, and Juliane talked us through it last time, the Maslow's 8 hierarchy of needs. And just the very basic fundamental, what you're talking about, Simon, the psychological and biological needs, the food, water, warm, rest, air, drink, sleep, shelter. That part of their life has been completely rocked upside down. And they're just seeking to have the very basics. And then safety and security, the second rung of this is just safety and security and protection from elements, stability. So those are just the very 2 basic things. And the empathy around people who are embracing and your parents helping them. And everything that you've been doing, Tim, with all these major transitions going on in your life, with, you know, learning when Christine had MS, and all the different things that you changed, and the way that you changed your mindset around all of it, and the different things, you know, you said you made new rules on how you're looking at things and the way that you approach it together. So this is ongoing topic, I think, for us, the empathy part of things. We're out of time. We're past time, actually. And there's still so much more to talk about around this. So I'm going to, one more time, let's just share this piece. Empathy can be developed. And when it is, people, relationships, organizations, and cultures are changed. And I think we lost him. We lost him. So we're going to carry on a bit more on the empathy part, coming at it from different perspectives as we go forward in our different topics. So is there anything more you wanted to add, Juliane, before we say goodbye today?
Well, keeping it good and empathetic and peaceful for yourself, and then ripple off on the outside. That's what it is.
And Simon, do you have anything more to add before we say goodbye?
Just a quick point that I think a big part of empathy is listening to people and taking the time. Just taking that moment. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn-out thing, but even taking 5 or 10 minutes to listen to people and truly listen, and not, if you are listening to someone, you're talking to someone, don't then, on the other hand, be distracted by your phone. Actually give them your full attention. I think that's what a lot of people are missing now. They think that people aren't really listening to them.
Yeah. We're going to sign off because we're past time now.
I dropped out there. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Welcome back. Is there anything else you want to add before we sign off for today?
I just want to thank all 3 of you for all what you're doing. I hope that these messages that you're giving out, the positivity and the discussions that you go through, reach a wider audience. And if there's anything I can do to help that, then just let me know. We do try and publish this every Balcony Banter that Juliane is involved in this. But if you want to come on to Balcony Banter as a guest, you're very welcome.
Oh, Tim.
Thank you so much for coming again on the show. And as we said, this was not going to be the last empathy talk.
No.
So you are very, very welcome to be back on board.
Thank
Simon,
you for sharing.
did the echo go away?
It's gone away now.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's fun.
I turned on echo, mute echo, so that was good.
Fantastic.
So we're all technically good now.
Fantastic. We're well beyond our 30 minutes today. This is Lorrie MacGilvray, Simon Turkas, Juliane, and our very special guest today, Tim Dowd. Thank you so much. And
Living with MS in Tenerife.
Shall I play you out with some music?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you.
Vamos a la playa.
You love that one, don't you?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been 30-Minute Mastermind with...
Have a great week.
Thank
You too.
Thank you.
Tim
See you.
Dowd.
Goodbye.
Oh.